Texas Democratic Gubernatorial nominee Beto O'Rourke confronted Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott during a media briefing. It's far from the first time that O'Rourke has spoken out on gun violence. Several officials yelled at O'Rourke for making the shooting a political issue. O'Rourke was escorted out of the building, where he spoke to reporters, calling it insane that an 18-year-old was allowed to acquire an AR-15 assault rifle. O'Rourke will face Abbott in the November midterm election.
You are doing nothing.
No.
You're offering us nothing. You said this is not predictable. This is totally predictable when you choose
you're out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Please leave
stop this from happening.
Sir, you need to exit.
Get out.
You need to exit.
Get out.
I can't believe you're a sick son of a bitch.
Happened here. This is not the place to do that. This is on you until you choose to do something different. This will continue to happen. Somebody needs to stand up for the children of this state, or they will continue to be killed, just like they were killed in Uvalde yesterday.
Well, right before the interruption, Governor Abbott was responding to the shooting incident. He was suggesting to shift the focus on promoting mental health services and convening a task force to harden school campuses and identify threats. But there was no mention of the most urgent problem in the state, the easy access to guns, including powerful assault rifles. Texas has eased gun laws in the last year, authorising residents to carry handguns without licences or training. In a report last year, Gun Owners of America held the Texas legislature for passing 4 bills to bolster gun rights. Well, for more on this, we have a guest joining us live from Washington, D.C., Edward P. Joseph, a faculty member from Johns Hopkins University.
Thank you.
Well, the President has spoken about the problem of gun violence, but really gun laws have changed very little in the last 10 years since the worst American school massacre at Sandy Hook in Connecticut. And really the issue of guns appears to have become more partisan in recent years. Why is that?
That you've put your finger on the question. And by the way, it's great to be with you here from Johns Hopkins University, the School of Advanced International Studies. And you've put your finger exactly on the question. And there actually is a very clear explanation to it, because it isn't that Americans are somehow different from the rest of the citizens of the world and want to live in these incredibly unsafe situations where you send your kids to school and you don't even know if there's a mass shooting going to happen, or you go to the grocery store. Americans across the board, by huge majorities, want stronger gun control. The problem is our political system. This is the paralyzing nature of our political system. What we have is the problem is in Congress. The way the congressional districts are drawn and redrawn, we do that every 10 years in this country after a census. The way that they've been redrawn is to create what are called safe districts. So they're not really competitive. Most of these congressional districts are not really competitive in a general election. What does that mean? Why for gun control? What is the relevance? It means that in the general election, when you're going Republican against Democrat, they're really not competitive. The real competition happens in the primary election. Who will be the Republican candidate? Who will be the Democratic candidate? And that's where the political process falls down. That's where it doesn't reflect the broad thinking and opinions of most Americans. Why? Because the voters who come out in the primaries are the ones who are the burning, really committed people. The rest of the voters simply don't really bother in the primary. They come out in the general to some degree, but they don't really bother in the primary. And that's why. And so the reason you don't have any progress here is because these Republican candidates are facing the extreme part of their Republican electorate. And they feel, and they say this. There's a Senator Kramer of North Dakota just said this. He admitted this. He said, if I go for and support even common sense restrictions like background checks on gun controls, I will be, this is a quote, thrown out of office in the primary, not in the general election, in the primary. So that's the reason. That's the nature of this. That's the paralyzing source here. It's not only on gun issues, but mainly, in particular, and most visibly on the gun issues. That's the explanation for it. And that's right now causing great frustration among Democrats. And we have to see whether there will be at least some Republicans who, under greater pressure, for example, like Senator Mitt Romney of Utah, who will break away from the pack in the Senate. They need 10 in the Senate and join with Democrats for, again, just common sense regulations like background checks for guns or even possibly ammunition. Please.
Yeah, you mentioned that frustration from the White House, from the Democrat Party, trying to look to bring in some reforms, but being blocked by the Republican senators. Are you expecting any movement from lawmakers in the coming days or even really the coming weeks on any new measures?
Well, I expect movement from Democrats, but and President Biden will surely be putting something forward here. But again, there are two problems. One is we have a slight political issue for President Biden in that he has a nominee for our agency that deals with firearms. That's called ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And you understand, in our system, the Senate gets to confirm, even it doesn't matter who controls the Senate, who's in office, which president. The Senate gets to confirm those senior level positions. And they turned down. Republicans blocked President Biden's previous nominee. Now he has a new nominee who just testified yesterday in the Senate. And so President Biden wants desperately to get that nominee confirmed and at the head of that office to try to effect some regulatory control over this. But in terms of legislation, it's very difficult, of course, highly politicized. Republicans do not want to give any type of legislative victory to Democrats, and they'll try to sabotage this. But again, the outrage among Americans after this extremely, just absolutely devastatingly tragic attack. Over 20 people killed, children killed in Texas on the heels of the 10 people killed just a dozen days ago in Buffalo in a grocery store. There is a mood, there's possibly a mood where some of the more sensible and moderate Democrats, like I mentioned, there's Mitt Romney, there's Lisa Murkowski, there's Susan Collins there and other senators who might actually join, again, 10 are needed, with all the Democrats. And we have to remember, some of the Democrats, for example, Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, they're from states that are very pro-gun and have this same kind of paranoia about any gun control legislation. So they're also in concern. But if the president and Senator Schumer, who's the majority leader, can keep all Democrats together, and perhaps this mood of outrage, absolute shock and outrage across this country after these two back-to-back mass shootings, possibly we could get some forward movement, but no one should expect that or guarantee it. Please.
Edward P. Joseph, a faculty member from Johns Hopkins University. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you for your insights on this very divisive issue in the United States.